Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Cision webinar, Create Better Brand Content All Year Long. I'm Marissa Jambroni, the Events Manager for Cision, and I'll be your moderator for today. During today's webinar, you'll learn how to better plan outreach initiatives with a centralized content plan, maximize engagement through strategic content distribution, avoid legal pitfalls and what you can do without your content, and increase online discoverability through content promotion. Before I introduce our fabulous presenters for today, I'm just going to cover a few housekeeping points. Questions, we'll have a moderated Q&A at the end of today's webinar, so feel free to use the questions tab on your webinar panel to submit any questions. If you're experiencing audio issues, you probably can't hear me right now, but hopefully you can see the slide. Feel free to chat us and let us know. We will be recording this webinar and sending out a link to the video afterwards. And lastly, if you are on Twitter today, please feel free to live tweet the session using the hashtag CisionWebinar. That's one word. We'll be doing a giveaway of a little bit of Cision swag to the most interactive tweeter out there. So be sure to get those fingers typing. And now let me introduce our presenters. Kerry Gorgone develops marketing training courses in her role as Senior Program Manager for Enterprise Learning at MarketingProfs. She's also a speaker, writer, attorney, and educator. Kerry hosts the weekly Marketing Smarts podcast for MarketingProfs and is a contributing writer for numerous sites, including Huffington Post, Mark Schaefer's Grow blog, Social Media Explorer, Entrepreneur, Spin Sucks, and MacCollier.com. Be sure to follow her on Twitter at Kerry Gorgone. Anna Nicholson, our other presenter today, is the Senior Manager of Content here at Cision. She drives the overall content strategy and multi-channel promotion for North America. Her innovative content programs helped the PR Newswire brand place as a finalist at the 2016 Content Marketing Institute Awards. Anna leads a team of content marketers focused on a revenue-first, customer-centric integrated approach, optimizing a mix of paid, earned, and owned channels to engage and inspire audiences. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Anna. Welcome to the webinar, everyone.
Thanks, Marissa, and welcome, everybody. Today's session is really about creating better brand content all year long. Marketers, PR pros, and communicators need to create a continuous narrative for their brand and engage audiences throughout the year. Your audience is in many places at once, and you need a multi-channel promotion strategy that continuously provides fresh content over time and optimizes your mix of paid, earned, and owned channels. However, synchronizing promotion over multiple channels is complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Content calendars are actually a great way to help you plan and organize the promotion of your messages and content while being cognizant of seasonal events. Developing a promotion program architecture before you start is essential. Not only will you benefit by giving yourself more time to research what has worked for you in the past, but you also want to determine and outline exactly what resource and bandwidth requirements you're going to have. So first, start with a plan, then execute your vision, and finally analyze and optimize. Pretty easy. So first, you want to set a timeline. Whether you create a quarterly strategy or if you want to plan out for the entire year, you should decide now what your goal is going to be for 2017. It'll also be good to map out major events that you know won't change, because it'll give you better foresight planning for the year to come. I personally think a quarterly strategy works well. You can get everybody on board, but also be agile enough to adjust strategy as the year progresses based on what works. And looking beyond a weekly or a monthly strategy is smart, especially if you have some ambitious projects that are going to take a while to develop. So, maybe you have year-long research reports that are continuously in your pipeline, and then you have a more solidified Q1 strategy, that you develop over the next few weeks. Next, you want to catalog proposed content projects and existing content for repromotion. I inventory all content by topic, persona, stage in funnel, products featured, and more to better understand which audiences I'm trying to reach with what pieces of content. That makes it easier for me then to pair content projects with appropriate subject matter experts, both internal and external, and then tie them in with the solutions and products that we offer. Also, because you want a program that appeals to consumers at different stages of the buying journey, you need to make sure that you have the right quantity and quality of content. So while cataloging everything, it's a good practice to flag content optimization and development opportunities for the future. Maybe there's a couple pieces that are always featured on your website. This is a good time to review and refresh that content if you're able to. Now, examining the data and determining bandwidth. So first, review existing content performance using real impact metrics such as views, downloads, click-to-open ratio, lead stage changes, so if content is propelling people towards the point of purchase or if you're getting people to contact your brand, and revenue. Metrics such as likes and shares are valuable for their own sake, but they're not going to give you the insights that you need to maximize leads and revenue and also develop a better business strategy moving forward for the coming year. So taking all of that data in and holistically looking at it as one big package is a really good idea, and it'll give you better visibility for the future. One other thing to look at is traffic data to your website and really figure out what types of content are bringing audiences to your brand. Reviewing historical performance of content pieces, what types of content have done well on particular channels in the past, i.e. press release, social, webinar, blog, etc., and what kind of results you saw from it. It's also a good idea to meet with your team to determine how many pieces of content each channel can promote per month. So some channels may have more bandwidth than others, and it's a good idea to build a plan that allows for the channel with the largest capacity to give the smaller channels something to build towards. And you can also list content in order of priority, so you can guarantee the top priority content is promoted across all channels. Now you're ready to execute your vision. So first, plan a content calendar schedule. With the initial feedback, data, and channel requirements in hand, you can begin to determine your publishing sequence. You'll need to be flexible here, as you may run into other scheduling factors such as product launches, holidays, large news events, crises, previously planned commitments, and more. So additionally, you want to keep your mix of paid, earned, and owned channels in mind. For instance, your social media channels will not only be promoting the program's content, but they'll also be promoting other channels' promotions like press releases and blog posts and webinars. We actually have a 2017 free interactive content calendar that we'll be sending out to help you get started on your own plan. I like to plan a day by day and then leave it to the channel leaders to adjust as the needs of the business arise. So taking one piece of content and mapping out an optimized content sequence for each individual piece of content that you make can help you boost online discoverability through multi-channel promotion. So I'm just using the content calendar as an example. You can see how many different places and opportunities there are to promote. You want to squeeze every single bit out of each piece of major content that you can. So this isn't even a quarter of the channels that I use on a regular basis. But you want to experiment with different channels and different publishing orders in order to get the most out of each piece of original content and create additional unique, rich content around it. So for example, you can create a press release that summarizes key takeaways of the content piece, craft a blog post that examines the topic from a new lens, and even create shortened social posts that share engaging sound bites. All of these unique complementary content pieces should link back to your main page and include tracking so that metrics can be attributed to each specific channel. Now I'm going to let Kerry discuss some best practices and engagement tips so you can execute the vision the way you intended.
Hi, guys. You've gotten some really excellent tips on content strategy so far, and that calendar is pretty fantastic. So do make sure when it comes into your inbox later that you download it, because you're going to be using it for 2017, as will I. So let's switch gears for a minute and talk about how to keep your marketing legal. You know what they say about the best laid plans, right? We need to avoid some problems maybe we don't know about. I'm going to tell you a really quick story. In college, I knew this guy named Rick, and he was a really sweet guy, like a true idealist. And after graduation, he went to Africa to volunteer with the Peace Corps. So shortly after he got there, he was with a large group of people when a snake made its way into their hut. They had like a big communal hut where they were meeting. Everybody panicked. They got on tables and chairs. They were screaming. And Rick was like, what's the big deal? It's just a snake. So he told everybody, I'm going to take care of this. And he grabbed an umbrella, went over to the snake, and stabbed it to death. So at that point, everybody starts coming down off the tables and chairs, and Rick finds out just exactly how stupid that was. Turns out the snake was a black mamba. It's one of the most poisonous snakes in Africa. So if it bites you and you don't have the anti-venom pretty much like with you right there, you die. So Rick was lucky, just plain and simple lucky. He had unknowingly done this incredibly dangerous thing, and he had no idea that what he was doing was even risky. So contrary to what it might seem like, right, lawyers like me are not evil. We're not just trying to ruin your fun and kill your good ideas. We're trying to protect you from those coiled snakes that you might not even realize are dangerous. So we're just trying to help you avoid danger, and not just any kind of danger, but the kind that can be very costly for you or your company or even a client. There are legal rules that marketers and PR professionals aren't always aware of, and there can be pretty serious consequences if those rules are violated. So for example, copywriters at WebCopy Plus posted this beach photo that they found on Google, which is a no-no, don't do that, you guys. But they found it on Google, they posted it on a client's blog, and a few months later, the client got a cease and desist letter claiming copyright infringement, and the person who owned the photo was demanding $4,000 to settle the claim, even though the firm took the picture down right away. So looking at a seriously expensive copyright lawsuit, the client paid the demand letter. One pic used on one blog post cost them $4,000. So think about this. How many blog posts do you write for clients every single day? And then there's live streaming. It's so impromptu. It's so fun, but oh dear, that's unfortunate. If you take a look at this one, it's not illegal in this case, this thing, but it's very embarrassing. So streaming videos without planning does present some risks. What if this pilot was standing in front of a computer screen with passenger information on it, right? That's private info. Or what if this was a passenger who never signed a release to be depicted and now they're embarrassed? So you got to think before you stream, and I'll give you some tips before we're through so that your content strategy can be implemented without embarrassing moments like this. And who here uses influencers for marketing? I'm going to bet, although I can't see, that there's a fair few of you giving it a shot. According to the FTC, Lord & Taylor paid 50 fashion influencers to share a photo of themselves wearing a dress from the company's Designer Lab collection. They shared the photos on Instagram, and each influencer got between $1,000 and $4,000 to share the photo. Only a few of them mentioned the fact that they were paid when posting these pictures. Only a few of them. So the FTC issued a warning letter this time, but next time you can expect a really big fine, because this has been for a while sort of untested waters. People were figuring out what was allowed and what wasn't, and now the FTC is clarifying it on a case-by-case basis, and they're going to start getting really serious. The dress that you're seeing in this picture here did sell out, by the way. So this kind of marketing works, but not if you get fined for it later. So at this point, you might be ready to just give up and say, let's go back to the other lady. She was nice and encouraging. Let's talk to Anna again. But hang in there with me. So I know the law can be confusing, and it might seem like too much work to try and kind of figure these things out, but you can substantially reduce the risks by knowing and doing just a few simple things, and we'll talk about what those are. So problem number 1, using other people's copyrighted content is incredibly risky. So remember Web Copy Plus and their $4,000 blog post beach photo from Google? You don't want any part of that. So I need you to understand one thing, and that is that lawyers, myself included, don't say no to having you use other people's content because we're not cool. We know that memes and GIFs are cool, but they're also technically copyright infringement. So you can decide whether to share on your own personal pages, but you just don't want to take the risk when posting for a brand or a client because it's just not worth it. You could look for third-party content that's free for commercial use. Some content creators post their pictures and videos and other kinds of content under what's called a Creative Commons license. And that gives you permission to use it as long as you adhere to the terms of the license, which might require attribution or credit, or might specify that you can't change it, things like that. The trouble is you can't be sure that the person who posted that content is actually the one who owns it. So third parties upload stolen content all the time. Just check out YouTube and you'll have all the proof you need. So you can't know for sure that you're in the clear, even if you find a great picture posted under a Creative Commons license. So here's the solution to problem number 1. Create your own images, do your own videos, create other materials on your own for your marketing. It's not as hard as it sounds sometimes, even for small businesses. We've got smartphones and tablets, and capturing great video it's really easier than ever. There's also been, at the same time, a shift in audience preferences. People really like low production value, behind-the-scenes type of content, so give it to them. You'll know that you have rights in the material you're using, and the people will feel closer to you and your brand because they're seeing the authentic you. We don't look perfect all the time, do we? No. Okay. So at this point, you know that creating your own content is the safest bet. You could, of course, get stock photos, but do us all a favor and don't do that because it's boring. That's the safest bet, is to create your own content in terms of copyright risk. So in your effort to create original content, you might be thinking about live streaming video. So we all want to try the latest thing because it's the thing that everyone's talking about. And for marketers, the first mover advantage is absolutely real. But there are risks. So we can't just pull out our phones and start live streaming on behalf of the brands we represent because there's some things we need to think about first. First of all, no one wants to look like an ass. So streaming without planning can cause some unfortunate consequences that can embarrass your brand for years to come. The internet, it remembers everything. So the solution to this problem is to plan your live stream as carefully as you would plan a traditional video shoot. So stream from an area that you can control, storyboard the shot, and look at what will be visible in the frame. What can you see? And remember, people could view your live stream on a huge monitor as opposed to a mobile device. So you might be doing Facebook Live from your phone, but people at home can be watching on their extra large HD monitor. So be careful, is there any confidential information visible anywhere? Any copyrighted material visible? If that's the case, you're going to want to remove it. If you're showing people's faces, which is one of the most interesting things to show, right? What are you going to show in your marketing? A bowl of fruit in your live stream? Be boring. But anytime you're showing people's faces, you really want to get a signed release. So if there is too many people for that to be realistic, you can post what's called a crowd release. And these are flyers that let people know that shooting is happening in the area and that entering that space means that they consent to their image and likeness being used. What it really means is, hey, if you're here with someone other than your spouse, it's time to skedaddle because we're going to be taking pictures and stuff. But this example here, you can see, is from Legoland, Florida, which is kind of funny to me because it's we're so laid back and cool, but they've got this tiny flyer up. And if you enter Legoland, Florida, you consent to the use of your likeness in photographs or video for advertising and promotion of the park without payment. So just something to know the next time you visit Legoland or the Holy Land experience, actually pretty much anywhere. Conferences and stuff frequently have those up too. So in a perfect world, you should have releases, like signed releases from everybody visible in your live stream or your video content. But if that's not possible, then at least get signed releases from people that you interview one-on-one or feature heavily in your stream, like you're doing a panel discussion or something like that. And definitely don't use someone's likeness in commercial content without permission, especially if that person's a celebrity. This is Jane Seymour here. So let's see if you can spot potential issues. Tell me if there are any problems with this. Yes or no? Who sees a problem with this? Simple yes or no. I'm going to vote. Can I vote too? Am I allowed to vote? Give you just a minute to vote there. And I'm going to check the results. Oh, look at that. You all figured it out. It's easy pickings, right? What was the problem there? The problem there was, of course, that you were, sorry, let me back up so you can see it again. But problem there is that you can see receipts, financial information, reservations, a lot of information about where these guys are going, their credit card information, their full legal name, a lot of things that should not be public on a live stream. Okay, try one more poll. Take a look at this and tell me if there are any potential problems you see live streaming this. Yes or no? Hopefully I can back up to it when we're done. Yeah, you guys got that one too. Hey, nice. So if you looked closely, I realize for you guys this might be small, but On24 is so very versatile. You could make it bigger if you need to stretch it and see. But there is patient information visible on that whiteboard in the background. If they had simply shifted people over to the left in front of that attractive circa 1970s drapery, they could have avoided potentially disclosing any confidential patient information, right? So you want to tell client and customer stories, you want to profile real people, and you want to be authentic, but we also want to be respectful of people's privacy. It's something to consider there. And this one's pretty simple. So just take a quick look. If you were going to live stream from outside this house, any potential problems there, yes or no? I feel like I should say no, like vote no, just to be wrong on some of these. I never do that, though. Did everybody get a chance to vote? I might have voted twice. I feel very strongly about it is why. Okay, so that wasn't me that voted no this time. I have a feeling, make sure I gave everybody a shot, but I have a feeling, if you take a look at this, that maybe that one person thinks you can't see enough in this to be a concern. I would be concerned about the license plate, and I would be concerned about the house number showing. Mostly because you can't be too sure in the era of internet trolling that won't cause a problem for the person who lives in that house. So if it's a customer or client you're trying to showcase, they probably won't appreciate the extra attention. Just something to be mindful of, especially if you have a large following and that's going to be going out to a lot of folks, right? Okay, one more. So this is Lindsay Lohan, and that is a Red Bull. So do you see any potential problems here for an individual Periscope or Facebook Live user who sees Lindsay Lohan at a party drinking Red Bull? Like, can they stream her? Yes or no? Let's do. If you saw Lindsay Lohan at a party, I'd be like, what parties are you going to? You guys, I don't know. More exciting party. People don't invite lawyers to Lindsay Lohan parties. Not typically. I think she probably use one by the end of the night sometimes. I'm going to submit my answer. Give you guys just a minute to submit yours. Okay. And do you see a problem with it, on the other hand, if the person doing the streaming was from Red Bull? Do you think that would present a problem if Lindsay Lohan was drinking a Red Bull and Red Bull decided to live stream it? Would that be a problem? Does that change your mind? Okay. So a lot of you see a problem with the image. I'm going to assume, first of all, that the problem is not just that it's Lindsay Lohan drinking Red Bull, right? If you're an individual and you're in a place you're otherwise permitted to be, then you can live stream from there. Now, if it's a private residence and the person whose house it is tells you knock it off or get out, that's different. Then you're going to have to stop. But if you're in a public place where you have the right to be and you happen to see Lindsay Lohan drinking a Red Bull, no problem as an individual for you to stream it. On the other hand, if you're with Red Bull, you should really steer clear of that because you don't want to get mixed up in potentially taking away her publicity rights or taking away her right to make money and decide the use of her own image in relation for commercial purposes. So something to think about. Katherine Heigl actually sued Dwayne Reed for, I want to say it was $6 million because they shared a photo of her coming out of a Dwayne Reed store. So celebrities are a little bit touchy. Red Bull should stay away from that one. Okay, one more. Any concerns here? So these are kids running around on the beach in their bathing suits. So if you're live streaming this on behalf of a brand, do you view that as potentially any kind of problem? I'll give you a couple seconds to answer. And while you answer, I'll ask a follow-up. Are they your kids? I'm probably giving it away, aren't I? Can't resist. It's Christmas, and for me, that's the season of giving. I don't know if you celebrate it, but I do. Okay, so most of you see the problem with that. I wouldn't say that in this instance you're looking at anything especially sensational, right? They're kids at the beach. But kids at the beach are typically in different, various phases of being clothed. Like some of them are totally naked, and some of them have bathing suits, and some of them are like, wearing sweatshirts and stuff. So the laws protecting minors are very, very strict. So if these were not your children, then you should not live stream them unless you have written permission from their parents. You really want to make absolutely sure never to live stream children without their parents' permission, especially for commercial uses. And watch out at beaches or pools, especially. You don't want to show a child without clothes on and find that your brand's being investigated for child pornography. It'd just be really, really embarrassing. I'm whispering on this. I hope it's coming through. So it's actually not hard, as you've discovered, to spot potential problems when you're really looking for them. So definitely live stream, but just plan first. So what I have here is just a simple shot list or storyboard. You don't have to be an artist or anything. Just, kind of mark up the boundaries of each shot so you have a good idea what's visible. If you find yourself, framing your shot and you notice that there's like a men's room behind you, maybe think about moving the shot somewhere else. Or if you're going to be outside, you might have to worry about hecklers. So maybe think about an indoor location that you control, something like that, if that makes sense. But if you storyboard it, I promise you'll spot some issues. For example, that Southwest Pilots Association, that would have been avoided had they just selected a more desirable place to live stream. Okay. So problem number 3, when we're coming around to influencers, blogger outreach, and approaches like that, there's a lot to think about. Do you remember the Lord and Taylor problem? They paid influencers to post pictures of themselves wearing a dress from the new collection. Only they didn't require these influencers to mention that they'd been paid to post, which is a really, really big no-no. Another thing I wanted to point out is that it's not apparent from looking at this, but the brand actually did review every single post the influencers made. But they were looking to make sure that they used the Design Lab hashtag. So this is worse, I think, than a situation in which you tell the influencers, here is a dress, post about it or don't. They're actually controlling the content of the posts, but they're not bothering to make sure that there's disclosure about the relationship. And it doesn't have to be fancy and you don't have to use legalese. You just have to make it clear that there's a relationship between this blogger and this brand that's not apparent just glancing at the photo, right? So in this case, each influencer got between $1,000 and $4,000 and didn't mention anything. So although you and I both know that some marketing channels don't leave you a lot of room for disclosure, the FTC has made it clear that they just don't care. So in the government's view, if you can't disclose a material connection between you and a blogger in a 140-character tweet, then you just shouldn't use Twitter. So every post containing or linking to sponsored material needs to tell people that there's a connection between the influencer and the brand. And the FTC calls it the 4 Ps. So this is what you get when you ask lawyers to come up with snappy marketing stuff. The 4 Ps: placement, which just means you want to put the disclosures close to the claim they qualify. Like, this diet pill really works. You should mention that you got paid to talk about that diet pill, like right then. Proximity, which in my view means the same thing, but hey, for the FTC, it means something totally else. Proximity: don't make users like scroll or zoom or pinch in the case of mobile to see a disclosure. It should be impossible to miss it. Prominence: make it stand out on the page. So that's the difference between calling it out with a different font, maybe a little bit larger or bolder, versus doing that boilerplate thing that lawyers do that everybody hates, like at the bottom of commercials where you see that boilerplate you can't read, and you pause it now and go read it, if you're me, because I'm a nerd. That's what we're talking about. So you want it to be prominent. And then presentation order. So the FTC asks that you make disclosures unavoidable. So you need to make sure that consumers see disclosures before they can go and spend their money. Your disclosures should be unavoidable. Don't let people make a purchase or click through without reading the disclosure. So think about it. If you got an all-expenses paid trip to a resort in Mexico and then talked about how much you love this resort in Mexico in your blog post, it stands to reason that you should mention that your trip was free, right, at the top before anybody goes to make their reservation. I think that's pretty clear when you think about it. So the key to disclosure is just making it clear that the content has been purchased or at least incentivized. So on the left is a Facebook post that's labeled sponsored, so that's pretty easy, indicating that the person or business that made the post has paid to promote it on their timeline. So clicking through the word sponsored shows you, the Facebook page explaining how sponsored content works on that social network. Steve Garfield, he's a video blogger. If you haven't checked him out, you should. He was like the original video blogger. I love Steve. He's very good about disclosure. And in his post here, which is from Google+, I know you guys aren't that into Google+, right? Yeah, me neither. But Steve is. So he posted on Google+ on the right here, and you can see that he's got a full disclosure that he received a free week-long test drive of this Cadillac ATS. And he talks about that every time he talks about the car. So on his website, on the social networks, wherever he's talking about the car, he mentions he got a free test drive. And that's pretty much all he has to say about it. Because we all understand what that means, right? If you're going to use hashtags, which you don't really have to, don't use something like SPON as a hashtag, because to most people, that doesn't mean anything. But most people do understand if you say ad or client, although it doesn't have to be hashtag. Like, I don't know when the last time was that you searched for hashtag ad, but I can tell you I have never, except maybe for an example for this presentation. So putting what we seasoned professionals might call a pound sign in front of a word doesn't really make things any clearer to the consumer. It's about making it clear to the person reading that there's a relationship they might not be aware of. So like, in case you didn't know that Snoop Dogg doesn't just love his Swagger Wagon minivan, you can note that it's an ad here and make it clear to you. So if it's your employer, for example, having a webinar and you want to say, join me for this webinar, you could say, hey, my company's hosting a great webinar. It's really pretty simple, plain English, and all good faith kind of stuff. So the solution to the headache of disclosure is just making sure that influencers know you insist upon them telling people the truth. Because the FTC, the government, will not come down on bloggers probably because there's so many of them. What they'll do instead is find the brands that are working with influencers, because that way they can stop the problem at the source, right? So that way you've got this one-to-many relationship as a brand, one brand to many bloggers, and you can get the word out about disclosing. So if this person here had just said, excited to partner with Lord & Taylor to promote their new Design Lab line, that would have done the job. People would have understood that she's working with them. She's not just an enthusiastic fan of Lord & Taylor clothing, right? So have a written agreement with your influencers in which you insist that they disclose properly. And make sure that these disclosures are designed for a moron in a hurry. So you want somebody who maybe isn't terribly bright and has a lot on their mind to understand that what they're seeing has been sponsored or that the influencer has been compensated. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem. And this particular meme is probably my favorite, by the way. It's Bad Luck Brian, whose school photo became an internet meme. Lucky for me, the photographer has never complained about how we're all abusing his copyright here, thankfully. So let's just do one more quick poll. Do you see any potential issue here with, and it's not just, no issue with Khloe Kardashian in particular, right? But Khloe Kardashian posts a product endorsement on Instagram using the hashtag SPON. I know that's hard for you guys to read, but she's talking about how ever since she started taking 2 of these supplements a day, her hair has been fuller and stronger. Because you guys are all looking at her hair right now. I know you are. Do you see any potential disclosure issue if all she does is use the hashtag SPON? Take a second. Give me your visceral reaction. Yes, it's a problem, or no, there's no problem. Not with her, but like with her disclosure, you guys. Okay, most of you do see that there's a problem. I think it can be tempting for some of us to think that because someone's a celebrity, that people are supposed to just assume that all of their content is sponsored. But that's not the case, because celebrities more and more often are sharing these unfiltered, authentic views of their life, right? Behind the scenes kind of stuff. Like, that's what people want. Stars, they're just like us. So just as what you've got with kind of citizen influencers, where there's this relationship that's not clear, you can't assume that just because somebody is a celebrity that they've been paid to talk about how much they love this hair supplement. And in this case, the hashtag SPON is really not clear enough, because, you and I, we're in marketing, so we understand what that means. But there is a whole universe of people out there, a lot of them in our audience, that have no idea that there's this existing kind of livelihood that depends on working with brands in exchange for swag, right? There's people who have no idea that that's even a thing. They'd probably be lined up around the block to get Khloe Kardashian's hair supplement. I don't really know. But failing to disclose can be very, very expensive. In one instance, the FTC issued an order requiring ATD Home Security Company to remove certain reviews and disclose in all future advertising that they had paid people to appear and endorse their products. So in this case, ATD had paid 3 safety and technology experts more than $300,000 to promote ATD Pulse, which was their new security system. 2 of them actually got the security system free too, and the security system was worth like $4,000. So they're also getting the monthly monitoring service for free. In exchange, the experts went on more than 40 different TV and radio programs. They posted blogs about this. They talked about it online, all the social channels about the security system, all without mentioning the fact that they were paid. So ATD had to go back and remove all the problematic reviews and make sure that any future posts explained the connection between the reviewer and the company. And each violation of this order would result in a $16,000 fine. So like, you miss one review that they posted for you somewhere, that's $16,000. So that's a lot of home security system sales, you guys, for every single violation of the order. So there you have it. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, at least legally speaking. I really don't want you to feel as though just because there are problems you're not aware of that you can't proceed with creative marketing. I'm here to tell you that you can. Just actively look for some of these potential problems ahead of time. You'll avoid copyright concerns by creating your own content, right? Or to avoid legal problems with live streaming, just plan ahead. Do a little thinking before you stream. And then if you're going to work with influencers, great. Just make sure they know that they have to disclose the sponsored nature of any content they create with you. So when you logged on for today's session, you might have thought that you and your lawyers would never get along and that all lawyers are evil and we just want to kill your creativity. But I hope I've proven that's not the case, that we're on the same team. And we just want to help you avoid the metaphorical black mamba, you guys. We're friends. So the best promoters They do take risks, but not unnecessary risks. Without realizing it, some companies and agencies risk being sued or fined thousands of dollars because their campaigns break the law. But now you know how to minimize those risks by using your own content, planning before you stream, and getting influencers in line with disclosure. So next time you have an idea for something cool, your lawyers will be able to say yes because you'll have planned ahead. So you can go on populate your content calendar with nice legal stuff that won't get you into trouble. So now I'll turn it back over to Anna to bring us home.
Thanks, Kerry. So now let's discuss how to analyze and optimize your brand content, your legally sound, best practice followed brand content by focusing on some key impact metrics. Throughout the entire process, you should be studying your analytics. So you look at the data, you engage with your stakeholders, you follow Kerry's best practices, you avoid all these legal pitfalls, you're smart about what you're creating, and now you measure and optimize your programs. So not only will the data provide you with the big picture successes of leads generated and revenue gained, but it'll also offer insights into metrics that can help you improve, such as lead attribution by channel, page views versus prior year performance, velocity and elasticity, lead conversion ratios, and consistency in persona coverage. I personally love, especially when mapping out a calendar, I love running A/B tests, and I sequence content various ways based on the results that I find. So for example, I'll send a press release one day about a piece of content, and then I'll publish a blog post the next, and then I'll promote it on the social throughout and the day after, etc., in order to figure out the optimal schedule and the right mix of the right content at the right time. So again, getting people the right content in the right channels at the right time on the channels where they're engaging with your brand. You really want to also look at this historical performance when you're presenting your results. So, providing a baseline is going to give you and your team the complete picture of the progress that you've made throughout the year, so you can live and learn as you go through 2017. And finally, you want to meet with stakeholders and schedule regular check-ins in order to rally support from all stakeholders and keep everyone on track. It's important to remember what's at stake. Working together to optimize your brand's visibility, maximize engagement, and meet or exceed revenue goals. So to get continued buy-in, you must have a plan in place to show everyone how they're helping to meet those goals. Before you even launch, you want to let them know how you'll be reporting performance, and additionally understand that multi-channel marketing and comms efforts take maintenance, ongoing maintenance, right? As the program moves forward, you'll continue to gather performance data throughout the year and stakeholder feedback, and it's smart to make adjustments based on what you uncover. From our own multi-channel programs, we found that coordinating a closely sequenced promotion across multiple channels can achieve an increase in views of more than 97% and a 222% increase in content downloads as compared to content that was not promoted on a multi-channel level and or not coordinated in an organized sequence. So, based on what we learned, based on the A/B tests that we run, we're just continually optimizing our content programs and fine-tuning each channel to maximize the most out of the content that we can.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna and Kerry. That was a great presentation from both of you. And right before we pop into the Q&A, we've launched a quick poll question on your screen to see if you'd like to receive a free audit of your 2017 communication initiatives. So just a quick yes or no. And while that's up there, I'll start reading off the Q&A that we have so far. Feel free to keep submitting. We have a few minutes left for the Q&A portion. So it looks like this first one is for Anna. It says, what's your advice for people just starting out in regards to, planning content? It can probably be a little overwhelming, especially with the new year coming about.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't want to get too lost in the weeds talking about programs and segments and personas. Some people don't have that set up yet. But really, first things first, be adaptable and be brave. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. So you really want to just start with whatever data you have available and go from there. So even if you don't have sophisticated tracking programs or personas or any of that set up yet, if you can start proving that what you're doing is working with content in real numbers and it's good for the business, not only does it make continued support easier, but it also creates a clear correlation between content and revenue, which is going to be an essential number to help you demonstrate the financial impact of what you're doing.
Fantastic. Spot on. And then this question, Kerry, do you have anything to add to that before we move on to question 2?
No, Anna covered it.
Okay, perfect. This question is more for Kerry. Do you have an example of somewhere where someone could find a crowd release, like a good example, or should they go to their legal department, or what do you recommend on getting a release like that written up?
Well, my son just had a field trip to the Holy Land Experience in Orlando, and they posted a crowd release outside the men's bathroom by the entrance. So it's one place you could go. Sorry, I'm kidding. There really is one, though. So, yeah, pretty much those are very easy to find online, actually. And as far as what you're looking for it to say, it's largely what you saw in the Legoland one, where you're saying, by entering this premises, you consent to our taking photo and video content of you that we will use for promotion without any additional compensation. Like, we're not going to pay you, basically, is what you want covered. So those are kind of everywhere. And you could post those anywhere that you're having an event. So you could work with the venue if you're renting a space for a conference. If you're having an event on site and property that you own, it's very easy. You could keep them up. You could keep it up all the time, I guess, if you wanted to. If you're in a public place, you might need to get a permit and specify like which part of, say, a public park you're using for a live stream or something like that, and then post those. And the other thing you can do is keep keep individual releases on hand for something like that. So if you do end up getting like a great interview from somebody on site at a user conference or something, you can use it because you get the release right with you for them to sign. And that should say something like, you release us and let us use your likeness and image in this video content for promotional purposes or any purpose, like now until the end of time. I think we've all seen those. So those are other things that are pretty easy to find online, but you don't want to scare people off, but you do want to have the flexibility to use the content the way that will, help your business.
To kind of piggyback off that, when you are kind of making your own images in-house with employees, should you get them to sign a waiver as well?
No, because they're employees. It's interesting. So actually, I encourage you to use employees like whenever you can. There are, let me think of a couple of examples. Stonewall Kitchen uses employees all the time, like their product and food, I forget what they call them, engineers or something. It's like their R&D people that specialize in cooking. They get those people in their videos to talk about a new product launch and like what goes into their brand new salsa or whatever it is. And that's a really good example. The other one I've seen that I like a lot is Clearwater Marine Aquarium in Florida. They have, that's the home of Winter the Dolphin from the movie Dolphin Tale. And they've got an incredible amount of foot traffic these days. Since the movie came out, they're up to like 800,000 visitors a year. So they live stream daily. And it's always kicked off by like I think it's their CMO, Bill Potts. And he will then feature an employee of the aquarium. So it'll be an animal trainer or somebody like a veterinarian, marine veterinarian or something, somebody working on site there. And when you do that, everything they do for you in that context, it's a work for hire. So you don't need a release or anything from them because this is just part of their work for you. So you definitely use your employees, man. It's the best idea ever.
Fantastic. Thank you. This question comes in. It's asking, what does an ideal mix of content in the calendar look like?
I can try and take that. So It really depends on your brand, like what your initiatives are, what your goals are for 2017, what programs, segments, personas you have set up, if any. So naturally it's going to differ from company to company, organization to organization. But I can share with you general best practices that I try to follow from a couple different angles. So first, based on previous data, so search traffic, high-performing content, and the like, I try to think about what are our customers and prospects, what do they want to see from us from a brand perspective? Next, based on those insights, I will try to include a mix of different content pieces that hit all stages of the funnel, the sales funnel. So from top of funnel, high-level thought leadership, mixed with some tactical best practices pieces, which I know resonate with our audience, case studies, which people love. They love examples of other brands doing successful things and exciting things, all the way to product-focused educational pieces. So lastly, I then try and consider all of that content within the programs and then within the context of what we're doing internally as an organization. So, having a pulse on whether we have some exciting new product launches coming out or new marketplace offerings, and then I weave it all together into a story that makes sense and is cohesive with the brand, ending up with hopefully a thoughtful, efficient, and impactful message. So you're presenting one unified, cohesive story throughout the year to your audiences.
Awesome. Do you have any tips to how someone could create a persona?
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's a whole nother webinar right there. But I think, like, for those people that are just starting out, I think, segmenting and really writing down, sketching out who are their audiences, and any good piece of content will start with who is your audience, trying to define maybe even just a handful of different types of people that are coming to your organization and interacting with your brand. It doesn't need to be part of a sophisticated demand generation program if you don't have the capability of setting that up yet. But if you do, you should already have with your ops team like predefined personas. But really, it comes down to who are the types of people that are engaging with you and your content, and that's the great first place to start with. Building personas, trying to think about what those people want, and really how you and your organization can help them achieve their goals, because that's why they're coming to you in the first place.
Can I say something really quickly? It's Kerry. Sorry, it's Kerry. I interview marketers all the time, and I just recently talked to Jason Falls, who specializes now in conversational research, they call it. It's like social listening. So if you're at the point where you're developing personas, whether you have a really expensive tool with sophisticated data or not, there are ways that you can look at what people talk about online that have like not a lot to do with your brand, right? So you could discover that the people who purchase your product, like your software as a service thing, they have this like side passion for, I don't know, crochet. I really have no idea. But it kind of surfaces these cool insights that you can then use to inform your persona building and your content after that. So if you haven't checked out jasonfalls.com before, I would send you over there to check out what he's doing these days. And he did not pay me. Nothing to disclose.
Thank you for disclosing that. Speaking of disclosure, with the disclosure of brand/blogger relationships, should we be concerned as a company sending complimentary product samples? It's not specifically a pay-for-play or contract, but will the same rules apply?
Not for you. So in that case, you've sent somebody something that's really like a gift because they have no obligation to talk about it for good or for ill, right? And so you have no expectation. The person receiving it, when they talk about it, should mention that they got it for free, but that doesn't reflect on you as a brand because you don't have an understanding with them. It's not the same as if you have a contract and they're operating at your behest, right? So you just sent them something and they can say they hate it or that they love it. It's all very, out in the open. I would still say they should say that they received it for free, even if it's just a sample. I've even said that I used to have a relationship with a brand or something, or like a former client. I'll even disclose that stuff. But that's on me. That's in that scenario where you're just sending out free stuff, you don't have a problem as a brand. I mean, you could certainly encourage people with it, be like, hey, if you're going to talk about it, use this hashtag and be sure to mention, I don't know, whatever. We gave it to you for free. You could say that, but I don't think you would need to worry about it in that scenario.
Awesome. Thank you, Kerry. We'll have one more question, and then we'll wrap up the webinar for today. This one is a content-related question. Just kind of reiterate earlier, how do you figure out which content to produce for the year?
Yeah, I think that goes back to like really defining what your audience wants to see. For example, like if you're sharing blogs on social, you can increase your reach in those posts by taking new angles on different content pieces, and you really utilizing a whole list of internal and external thought leaders to, subject matter experts to speak and provide new and fresh perspectives on each content piece. So like adding that unique channel-specific approach to each promotion is really critical when you've defined your core topics to extend that reach even out beyond the original content piece.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Kerry and Anna, both. We're towards the top of the hour today, so thank you everyone for attending. It was a fantastic webinar. You can find an archive of all of our webinars on our website at cision.com. Additionally, we have some excellent research and slides from past webinars that can be found on SlideShare. That's slideshare.com/Cision. And of course, you can find us all on Twitter and Facebook. We just had one last minute question regarding the interactive calendar. We will be sending that out to all attendees of today's webinar, so that should be in your inbox within a few days. So we are Cision, a leading media communication technology and analytics company that enables marketers and communicators to effectively manage their earned media programs in coordination with paid and owned channels to drive business impact. As the creator of the Cision Communication Cloud, the first of its kind earned media cloud-based platform, Cision has combined cutting-edge data, analytics, technology, and services into a unified communication ecosystem that brands can use to build consistent, meaningful, enduring relationships with influencers and buyers in order to amplify their marketplace influence. Again, thank you everyone for joining us today, and have a great rest of your afternoon.